So this week we have a network of over 2,400 EDI champions. So these are people who put themselves forward as wanting to do more to promote and support all different minority colleagues in the workplace. And each day during the week, we sent out a newsletter to our EDI champions on each of the 5-day challenge topics with a little bit of guidance of what they can do if they've got 5 minutes, what they can do if they've got 10 minutes, what they can do if they've got an hour, and how they can also have conversation with their team about it. So some prompts that they can do to have that conversation. So we kind of took what you guys have produced with the materials and kind of made it our own and made it also relevant to Network Rail and our specific kind of context that we have as well. We also did several sessions throughout the week. So we did some virtual sessions on privilege, inclusive language and code switching for days 2, 3 and 4. And I'll tell you a little bit more about those sessions and how they went in a second. And also we're trying to work more collaboratively on EDI across the industry as well, because we recognize that a lot of industry organizations have similar challenges in terms of their culture and working in infrastructure. And so we ran an event with an organisation called Rail Unites for Inclusion, which is all about inclusion in the rail industry. And that had panel discussions with senior leaders from across the industry. And the key theme that we were pushing was every action counts. So it was about taking action from some of the conversations that we had last year following the race riots and feedback that we'd had during Interfaith Week and also South Asian Heritage Month. So it was taking those learnings and actually showing the action that we've taken as a response to things that we heard during those sessions. So I think that one of the things I put in the chat when you asked earlier was I feel like this year we've had some of the most inclusive conversations ever. And I think part of the reason for that was that the first topic of the week was intersectionality, which I think was really, really valuable at kind of framing what it is that we're talking about here. I think that some of EDI in the past has been taken quite divisively as it's ethnic minority colleagues against white colleagues, and that can be problematic for what we're trying to do here. But actually having the first topic as being intersectionality was like an appreciation of the fact that everybody has their unique differences and the challenges that they face as they walk through the world. And I think that acknowledgement right at the start really framed and shaped the rest of the conversations that we had throughout the week and made people a lot less defensive. So even when we were talking about privilege, which can be a really charged conversation for people, and we asked people how that word made them feel as well, and there were lots at the start of the session of people saying that they felt guilt, that they felt that word made them feel vilified. So there was lots of like negative connotations around it, but through the conversations and showing that actually what we're talking about here is trying to make the workplace better for every single person from different marginalized communities, that really kind of helped them to put their defensiveness aside and actually realize that this is about all of us and all of us moving forward together as a more inclusive workplace together. So it was really positive. And I think that another thing I wanted to add was that I think that the conversations as well were really valuable because a lot of the time, while it's really important that we have the policies and the processes in place, which is what we try and make sure we have, we need people to buy into it to make sure that they're applying those things correctly and that they understand when they're working directly with people in their teams and their colleagues, that they're actually representing those inclusive practices and behaving in that kind of a way. And so having these conversations, I think, was a really good part of building that culture around being able to talk about things, being brave to talk about these things in the workplace. And they are workplace conversations that need to be had. So I think that was a really big positive that we took away as well. And the resources were really valuable as well. A lot of people really engaged with the Wheel of Privilege and things as well. And we got a lot of people to kind of reflect and plot where they felt they sat on the Wheel of Privilege as well, to kind of be reflective of their own identity, which was really interesting. So I think if you want to retain momentum throughout the year, I would say keep the conversations going. So like what Javed said about tea breaks, keeping those topics happening in place, but to make sure that it's meaningful and that things are happening that are actually going to create the change, I think you need to make sure that your EDI work is embedded into your strategy, it's embedded into where you want to go as an organization, that you have senior leadership buy-in to make these changes, and also participate in a benchmark if you haven't already, to actually understand your starting point and the things you need to do to create a change. So we took part in the Trailblazer benchmark, which is a really good benchmark because I like that it really talks about engaging your ethnic minority colleagues and bringing them along on the journey that you have with EDI with you, which is a really good thing about the Race Equality Matters Trailblazer. We also do the investing in ethnicity benchmark as well, which is good in other ways as well. And then also make sure it's data driven. So we are really keen in Network Grow at making sure that all of our work that we do is backed up by data, because it can be really exhausting to put your effort into things where there aren't actually issues in your organization. So knowing where your issues are. So are you having a high proportion of ethnic minority colleagues leaving? Is that your challenge, so you don't have an inclusive environment where they can progress? Or is your challenge that you're not doing very well at attracting them in the first place? So knowing where to put your energy will also help to kind of know what you need to do throughout the rest of the year to keep your work going.